And so it ends. The United States women's national team won. The Dutch women's national team won. Hello, everyone. Wherever you're watching across the globe, my name is Mark Donaldson, alongside Marissa Lordanic, who is in Brisbane, and Tom Hamilton, who is in Sydney. We'll get the thoughts of both on what we have all just witnessed, obviously with our two guests in Australia and the game taking place in Wellington, New Zealand. We don't have anybody at the game itself, but we all watched it. So let's get right to it before we get to other highlights of what's happened in the Women's World Cup and what is coming up over the next couple of days. Marissa, I want to start with you. A 1-1 draw with the Dutch scoring first and then an equaliser in the second half. Do you think that was a fair result over the balance of play, 1-1?
I think it was. I know that the US were definitely pushing for more and more goals. They had that disallowed goal with Alex Morgan offside as well. But I think on the overall balance of play, the US created a lot of chances without really testing the Dutch defence, which might be a controversial thing to say. But I really do think over the balance of play, it was quite an even contest. And I think both teams offered a lot, which is what we want from a game of with two teams of this higher calibre. Yeah,
Vlatko Andanovic, Tom, seemed to be the happier of the two coaches at the end because his team came from a goal down. But in those last 10 minutes, the Dutch really were hanging on. So I suppose pre-game, Vlatko was hoping for all 3 points. But with the way that the game kind of went about and what happened with the Dutch scoring first, it's probably not the end of the world, a draw for the United States.
No, I think it kind of plays into their slightly slowish starts at the World Cup compared to a few of the other teams we're seeing. I thought in the first half, the Dutch midfield completely bossed it. That trio just basically dictated the tempo of the game. Lavelle's introduction at halftime shifted that balance a little bit more back in the US's favour. By the end, as you say, it was the US were pretty much completely dominant. But the Dutch were really, really well organised in that first half, scored a great goal through Rord. And what we saw there was, again, the US, a bit like some of what we saw against Vietnam, struggling to sort of break down the opposition and create these clear-cut chances for that lethal forward line. But 1-1, I think, very fair result overall. Work to do for both teams, but I thought Van der Donk was absolutely outstanding in the field for the Netherlands. Some really, really good little exchanges with her Lyon teammate as well. But it was, good, like really entertaining game though. Like really, really high standard. Probably one of the most sort of competitive games we've seen in terms of standard at this World Cup, I think, so far. But great fun, and I think 1-1, pretty much fair reflection.
Yeah, it's not often you get a group game, Marissa, that features the two teams that contested the final 4 years ago. Let's break down the goals. You can have the Dutch goal, and Tom can take a look at the American goal. And for the Dutch goal, I just felt the left back tucked in a little bit too much. She slipped then, and yes, they worked it wide. It wasn't the best cross into the box. It was certainly a good finish. But at that stage, it was the Americans that had started the better. And I think that might have been the first shot on target from the Dutch that ended up in the back of the net.
Yeah, I feel like it was definitely a run against the run of play rather at that point in time. But it was just really well worked by the Dutch. It was good to see that quick passing movement. They really had the US kind of on their heels, which is not something we often see from this team. So I think it was massive credit to the Dutch, the way they worked it. We know that Jill Roord knows how to finish. We know she's just signed with Manchester City as well. So a lot of City fans will be looking at that thinking, yes, I would like some of that in the WSL season. But no, really just a well-worked team goal, really reminiscent of kind of what we saw in 2019 as well. Their best definitely looks like a well-worked team goal. So definitely a big fan of what we saw of Jill Roord scoring.
Yeah, there was a period after that, Tom, where I think the Dutch, and you've both mentioned it, they had that extra player in midfield. They kind of got a grips, but I thought they used some good width as well. And going in at halftime by a goal to 0 up, it was a disappointment for them. You could see just as the players went in, the big centre-back was in tears as she went down the tunnel, knowing that her game was over. So there was a couple of replacements, and you've already mentioned Rose Lavelle, who came on, and she was actually quiet for the first 5 minutes before she really made an impact. But explain to anyone that maybe didn't see the game, there was actually a stoppage in play. The referee wanted a word because there was a challenge initially by Van de Donk, and it actually seemed on a replay to be a decent enough block. But Lindsay Horan, who was the player who was challenged and ended up on the deck and had to get treatment, they were both then spoken to by the referee, who halted the play, and one didn't pick up the other, and one headed it into the back of the net for the equaliser.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? A bit of drama. Yeah, so Van de Donk leaving probably slightly late. Little sort of kick on her Lyon teammate in Horan. Horan clearly was pretty upset by it. The referee sort of intervened and encouraged the two to sort of shake hands and crack on. And then off the resulting corner, what must have been about 45 seconds, a minute later, there's Horan, brilliant near post run, heading it past keeper for the equaliser. And it's a case of don't make Horan angry, really. It was one of those things where a little tussle, and then before you know it, you're back in the game, and it's 1-1. So it was a really well worked goal. Another set piece goal here at the World Cup, but it was in a game where there weren't that many clear cut chances for the States. A little bit, I guess, like the match against Vietnam, there were sort of half chances here and there. I think they're still trying to get Smith and Rodman sort of in the right areas. We saw Alex Morgan having that goal disallowed as well, where she was rightly judged as being offside. Yeah. But it's still a case of, I think, just finding that rhythm and finding, turning all this possession and territory into clear-cut chances rather than these sort of scrappy half chances. And that was, but that moment there, the goal was wonderfully worked, great set piece, and yeah, definitely deserved the equaliser.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN+.